Competitions are bound to take place everywhere, even if you are not big on it. It is ever present in different situations. At home with siblings, with classmates from school, and of course, one of the intense daily competitions you will have to grapple with is workplace rivalry. Being competitive seems like human nature as there is always the need to be better than others. This can be an inherent behavior or, for some, motivated by incentives. Some office rivalries are healthy, however, it is undeniable that there are instances where friendly competitions take a wrong turn. Excessive workplace competition can result in stress, mental breakdown, toxicity, and unsound rivalry. Some would often go as far as to harm or do unethical practices to get ahead of everyone. Joining me on today's edition of Tosin's Corner to discuss workplace rivalry, dealing with unhealthy competition, toxic workplace culture, and bowing out when the ovation is loudest is a work friend, not turned friend, sister, and colleague. She is Ashashi Atta. We had a brief stint together in the same workplace. Thank you, Ashashi, for joining me in my corner today. Oh,
It feels really, really nice to join you in your corner. I'm more than happy to be here and congratulations.
all right, thank you so much. All right, so let's begin with toxic workplace culture we see in office environments nowadays. What do you think usually leads to this?
That's that's a big question, and not because it's a question without an answer, but it's because there are so many dimensions to a toxic workplace, and sometimes I think it makes a lot of sense to even define what a toxic workplace is. Some people might say, "Oh, a toxic workplace is where goals are not being met," which is true, but also other times it could be that goals are being met to the detriment of the people working in that space. So, just going back to your question, we're trying to understand what leads to them. Let's start with, personal differences. Let's start with the workplace structure in itself. Let's also start with the employer's disposition to employees' relationship. So if you're an employer, for instance, that prioritizes, a healthy workplace, the results will be there. In the case where you are not, also it might lead to the kind of unhealthy workplaces that we see. We also have to acknowledge, the workspace structure. I mean, like everyday rules and regulation obtainable in that workplace. It could be at the very basic level, personality difference or differences. It could also be the employer's approach to seeking success. Sometimes, without realizing it, employers might create a space that is toxic, all in the name of trying to meet their goals.
Or indirectly.
Exactly. So, really, it's multidimensional.
So, in your opinion, how best can workplace rivalries be managed?
Let's start with ensuring that directly or indirectly, we're not creating a space or creating situations that encourage, that kind of unhealthy competition. And what it means is ensure that you're giving everyone his or her due. Ensure that there is a clear line of, who does what and who takes directive from whom. And that we do not condone, for instance, people jumping, their line manager. Again, if as the boss, you allow for things like that, what happens is you're indirectly saying, you know what, as long as you're doing what I want, you can disrespect this other person. And or as long as you are doing what I want, you can even become this person without going through all the proper channels. I say this thinking about also situations where, employers deliberately, because they want results, create a competitive environment without ensuring that the competition is not one that is detrimental to people. So I think the onus really lies on the employer.
Okay, so can we talk about divide and rule? There are some employers that feel that by dividing
Divide and
their
conquer.
and conquer. Thank you. So that feel that by throwing that kind of or playing that kind of card will put some on their side and some on the other
I
side.
mean, think about
Like
it.
pitching them against one
Yes,
another.
the British people literally did that, before our independence. It's a thing that we were taught in school, that the colonial masters actually used this strategy to sort of create chaos and conquer us. But also, you think about it in the context of a workplace. I think more often than not, employers do not actually realize the damage of that strategy. Really, they think, okay, we're just out to get results. And maybe if we put this person and this person together, they'll compete so much, we'll get the very best. But what they don't realize is, as an employer, your number one responsibility after setting up a place is to ensure that the people who work there are happy.
Well, so how do you want to ensure that this toxicity does not escalate into something more serious?
How about we even start by ensuring that it doesn't,
Exist
exist in the
at
first
all.
place? And I think that should be, the gospel that we should all be preaching in 2023. In a world where we continuously talk about mental health, employers are very much saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that they create a workspace that does not enable, unhealthy interactions, but also let's assume that it's already started and you want to ensure it doesn't escalate. Define boundaries, clearly define roles, ensure that who does what is clearly spelled out. Then let's also proceed to ensure that we're not enabling unhealthy sort of work interactions and work strategies. What I mean is, sometimes we have these incentives that are supposed to do a great job for encouraging people, but in what way are we doing it? I would say, if it's possible, avoid one-on-one competitive situations where it looks like, it's two of us against each other and one person has to go down. Do not compare. Comparisons do a lot of damage to people's self-esteem, to people's sense of worth. And, just like psychologists will tell you, parents, do not compare your children, because it has a psychological effect negatively on their mental health, on their self-esteem, sense of worth. I think employers should consider themselves the workplace parents, in the sense that you are the line manager. You are responsible for managing these people, these talented people that you have brought in. So what it means is you have to be careful as to how you give praise and how perhaps you correct. Yes.
Okay, so how do one distinguish between a healthy rivalry and an unhealthy one at workplace?
I would even say that the word rivalry still sounds a bit negative. It still has a sort of unhealthy connotation.
Either
Yes.
you like it or not,
So
because there's something I always say. Sometimes you are on your lane, so to speak, and some other persons, being that you are competent, they see you as competent enough, as productive enough, and they are struggling tooth and nail to meet up, to be you, or to even outshine you. So that is why I am kind of putting it at
in that way,
because they are inevitable. They happen.
So perhaps potato, tomato, whatever they say, but I would still prefer maybe the term that I see a lot of professionals use, which is healthy competition. So you can have a healthy competition, perhaps without necessarily seeing the next person as a rival, but not to even say that a rival must have to be your enemy. But we sort of associate rival with enmity. So just going back to defining and differentiating, a healthy competitor would be someone who will still applaud you when you do well.
That you pulled yesterday, I'm also going to try it. Positive in a positive way.
Exactly. And then I think when you narrow it down to a typical workplace, I would still emphasize on, as much as possible, avoid a one-on-one sort of comparison and competition. How about we do team versus team? How about, we have, say it's a marketing firm, for instance, we just applaud the person who pulled in more customers. No pressure, but we have an incentive, we have an award, the numbers don't lie, this is who brought it in. So next month, everyone saw what was given to the best man for this month, and everyone strive to get it done.
I always say that competition, using the word competition now, the competition is not in-house. Your co-competitors are outside. So you are, if you work in a media house, for instance, you are competing as a team. You are all competing against another media house. You shouldn't be competing with someone in-house.
You know that a workplace is unhealthy when you are no longer excited about working with your teammates. I mean, not to be too obvious, we used to work together and we no longer work together. The fact that I can be invited to your corner, Tosin's corner, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited for you, and it's not just from being here. I'm excited to see what these become. There are so many prospects, and I think without saying too much and without tapping my own self in the back, I think what we have is an example of a healthy workplace. However, when we work together, it doesn't mean that you were not out to ensure that your program was good, or my program. I was also not out for my program to be good. But I would say that as much as possible, we had moments where we would both do a critique kind of thing on each other's work. The quality control thing was done in a way where you look at my work, you did well, oh, maybe you should remove this. Or, oh, you pronounce, oh, this is a very popular one with our host. Oh, this word, you pronounce it this way. And the ability to be accepting of this without seeing it as an attack on your person or your expertise. So again, I think personalities can clash, but ensure that the workplace does not enable those clash to,
linger on.
Exactly.
Right. Most of us work 40 hours per week, and others work, longer than that. And the annual work index conducted in October 2021 found that people spent 58% of their day at work. And you find that you have one or two persons you relate with at work. What kind of relationship do you think should exist at workplace? Is it cordial? Is it just work?
It's a very tricky one, because a lot of experts will tell you you don't have to be best friends with, your co-workers or your colleagues. And I agree. But also, I think it serves you best if you are actually quite friendly with your co-workers. I say this because sometimes if you're not friends with people, there's only so much you can do for them. People will go above and beyond for the people they care about and for their friends. So I would advise that as much as possible, people should be friendly at their workplace. You shouldn't be total strangers, right? But coming back to, you don't have to be best friends. We must remember that at the core of that relationship, it's a professional relationship. So there's also need for clear boundaries as to how much we relate with each other, as to who does what and who takes directive from whom. Sometimes I think why people shake or shy away from being friends with their co-workers is that the lines become very blurred or blurry, and it affects work and it affects the professional structure of their relationship. So I think first and foremost, the relationship that should exist between you and your co-worker must be respectful. There should be mutual respect. There should be a desire to ensure that everyone excel and to learn from one another. And there should be a clear understanding of who does what, and a genuine concern for one another. If I'm working with someone and she has a headache or she's eating and choking, the least I can do is to offer them water. So there should be a good balance. If it's possible to be friends, by all means.
All right, so now let's deviate a little bit, still in line of our discussion. There was a video that made the round some time ago about, from what we understood from this video, the police officer, the senior
I think I know what
police
you're
officer,
referring to.
you saw the video,
Was being asked to leave the
to leave
office.
respectfully. I'm putting respectfully now because the words that were used.
There was nothing
were
respectful about that
exactly
video.
there's something like, oh God, we can't play the video because it's not my content, and so we're just going to talk about it.
So I saw that video, and I must say that it is a sad one because, from my understanding, he was a retired superior officer who has refused to leave the office, I believe. Am I getting the context right?
Yes, you are.
All right. So we're speaking about the same video. To start with, you should never have to be asked to leave when your time is due. I think to a large extent, the video in itself explains to us the kind of superior that he was, or the kind of officer that, he is. Without assuming, in the first place, what is right and what is wrong is wrong. If you're retired, you're no longer expected to still remain in that place. And there's this thing about leaving when the ovation is loudest, and that was not the situation. But why would a superior be treated that way? And what is the context, or what would be the justification for such a thing? And not to say what the younger officers did was right, but I would take a deep guess and say, you were not a good boss, you were unkind, you were mean. Another possibility would be that you kept resources to yourself that was for the common good. I would also say that you didn't care about the welfare of your junior officers.
All right, so thank you so much for that. On this note, let's quickly go on a short break. We have a book of, sampling the opinions of people, how or the kind of boss ought not to be. Let's take a look.
For a DPO to be booed by his co-workers, in as much as he is a superior in the office, if he has done well, there shouldn't be any reason for him to be booed. But for him to be booed, it means he has not performed his tax duties and obligations well. So he has, or that is the more reason why he should be booed, for him to be known that he has woefully performed a very bad attitude.
So there's nowhere the system works normally that you get such grudges. But when the system is not going the way it's supposed to go, so that is where we get it wrong. So there must be a problem. Anywhere you see such argument taking place, so there's a problem. So there's a problem inside.
I would say power goes up and comes down. So if you're in power, you just have to be good to people because you don't know who is who. When you retire, you will definitely need help from people that are still in power. So I would advise people that are in power to always be good to their workers because you would retire and you will need help someday. So just be good.
All right, welcome back. It's still Tosin's Corner, and I have in the studio Ashashi's Corner.
Now I can see they're about to give me their corner. I will gladly collect the corner. But that's what we're talking about, isn't it? That you're kind enough to share your corner.
Exactly. Okay, so you did mention earlier on something about bowing now, leaving when the ovation is loudest. What is your take on that? When or should I just say, okay, when is the right time to retire? Now I'm talking about if you find yourself in private sector, because we have it's the order of the day in private sectors where you see people who should ordinarily be out of the system, still jostling with the younger ones who they should be mentoring. What is your take on that?
It's a tricky thing, and I feel like with some of the questions that you've been asking, different questions, but I see myself still talking about the same thing: structure, because one of the reasons why you might not see that kind of situation in the public sector or public, is it public service we call it? Yes.
Service.
It's because there is a structure. You spend 35 years,
Either you like it or
or
not. There is nothing like I'm still enjoying the job.
Exactly. And there are levels to the career progression. So it's a natural progression to the end of, your last day or your career journey. But in the private sector, I think sometimes we patch, It's like, oh, this person is still doing okay, let the person stay here. But you're forgetting that there are people who have also spent the last 15 years with hope to occupy this position. And there should be a progression. If you mentor people, it will get to a point where their success and their growth and their progression gladdens your heart. And you can actually leave that job even before time, knowing that you're giving your best. I think more often than not, people know when their time is up, but we try hard to hold on. And really, it makes no sense.
Thank you so much for coming, Ashashi, and thank you for all the insightful words,
Always a pleasure.
things, you have said here today. And I do hope that our listeners or our viewers will, make the most of the things that we have discussed here today. And that's the essence of, treating topics like this so
Absolutely.
that you can learn, unlearn, and relearn certain things for the overall good of everyone around us. She has said it. So thank you so much for watching. Please kindly follow and subscribe to my channel at Tosin's Corner. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Ashashi, for